Well, welcome to the 700 Club, and thanks for joining with us. Well, here's a theme for you. It's building bridges, and it's turning into a laughable theme of an annual medical conference that has barred pro-life professionals from attending. The reason for the ban is their belief about abortion.
Republican lawmakers are calling out the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists. They're demanding they stop discriminating against those who believe abortion is not only wrong, but also harmful to women. CBN News correspondent Caitlin Burke has the story.
I think it's always a bad idea to silence other people's opinions. Again, look, we think abortion is wrong. They think our position is wrong. So let's have a discussion.
The American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists has hosted a booth at the annual OBGYN conference for the last 15 years. Incoming CEO Dr. Christina Francis says she believes the decision to ban her group from this year's event is purely because of their stance on abortion.
Despite multiple requests for an explanation as to why, the only explanation we've received is a vague explanation that we disagree with ACOG, presumably on the issue of abortion. This is very interesting considering the theme of this year's conference, which is building bridges.
In a statement to CBN News, ACOG said it, quote, welcomes exhibitors that align with our commitment to the advancement of evidence-based scientific information.
I don't know what they mean by that. You know, the evidence is pretty clear. In an abortion, the mortality rate is 50%. I hope they can't argue with that. And I'm surprised that while only 7% of obstetricians and gynecologists in this country do abortions, why would they quash the opinions of people who disagree with them?
Maryland Representative Andy Harris is a physician and co-chair of the House Pro-Life Caucus. Members of his committee sent a letter threatening to, quote, take ACOG to task if the group doesn't immediately make some changes and end their discrimination against pro-life doctors.
Dr. Francis says she believes it's important for the next generation of OBGYNs to decide for themselves what the scientific evidence says about the effects of abortion on women's health. She's invited the CEO of ACOG to a scientific debate on the issue, anytime, anywhere. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Well, in other news, the FBI is offering a $50,000 reward in its investigation of the kidnapping of 4 Americans in Mexico. Ephraim Graham has that story and more from the CBN Newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon gunmen abducted the 3 men and 1 woman on the border town of Matamoros. Video shows the heavily armed group capturing the victims at gunpoint. The scene illustrates the terror that has prevailed for years in this area, a city dominated by factions of drug cartels that often fight among themselves. The 4 Americans have been identified, one of them reportedly going to Mexico for a body enhancement procedure. The other 3 went along to help drive. The White House now advises Americans not to travel to that part of Mexico because of the continued risk of crime and kidnapping. Turning now to Atlanta, nearly 24 people face charges of domestic terrorism after attacks on police. Violent protesters threw fireworks, rocks, and Molotov cocktails at officers and equipment at a construction site. Police say most of those in custody are from out of state and broke off from a peaceful demonstration.
When you throw Molotov cocktails, large rocks, a number of items at officers, your only intent is to harm.
The city plans to build a police training facility on the property, which protesters claim will be used to militarize police. The city council, Republicans and Democrats alike, approved the plan. In January, rioters set fire to a police cruiser and smashed shop windows after police shot and killed an activist in an exchange of gunfire at the site. Turning now to California, where people will be digging out from snow for days to come. Social media showing images of immense depths of snow, in some places reaching up to the power lines, surrounding homes and blocking doors. One homeowner managing to get his snowblower up on the roof to clear away the drifts. About 50 feet of snow has fallen on parts of California so far this winter. Shoveling snow is a dreary and difficult chore, but for some, it's also deadly. In the United States, about 100 people die and thousands more are injured performing the task every year. Medical reporter Lori Johnson shows us why it can be so dangerous and what to do to stay safe.
Shoveling snow may seem like an ordinary chore. However, it can put more strain on your heart than you might think.
Shoveling snow has been shown in a lot of studies that it can cause your heart rate to get as high as if you were running a race, running a 5K.
Regardless of shoveling in past years, doctors say it's best to be careful if you have any history of heart problems, chest pains, or haven't been physically active.
If you're someone who sits around most of the summer, stays inside in the air conditioning, and has taken the holidays and enjoyed them for all they're worth, and hasn't exercised or gone out and done much for a few months, probably going out in January and shoveling 2 feet of snow or even 6 inches of snow that is heavy is probably not a good idea.
If you do have to clear the white stuff, try pushing rather than lifting, and do a little at a time.
If you can shovel early in the storm, kind of middle of the storm, and then also at the end of the storm, you're ultimately, while it's taking you more time, you're shoveling smaller amounts of snow each time you're doing it.
Be on the lookout for chest pain, a common heart attack symptom, as well as the more subtle ones.
Just feeling short of breath, lightheadedness, feeling extremely nauseous or sweaty, really just not feeling yourself all of a sudden.
And heart issues aren't the only concern. Lower back strain is common from shoveling snow. If this happens to you, doctors recommend stopping the activity immediately and applying ice to the affected area. Then consider an over-the-counter pain reliever like ibuprofen. Take it easy, but don't stay still for too long. That can cause painful muscle stiffness. Gently stretching the lower back helps, like sitting on the floor and reaching for the toes. Many people consider snow blowers as a safer alternative, although those machines can carry their own risks.
Certainly avoiding, putting your hand too close to the blades and making sure that if it does break, that you have someone, trained to fix it as opposed to trying to fix it yourself.
So while getting rid of unwanted snow can be hazardous, with a little know-how, you can weather the storm safely. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Turning overseas now to Russia's ongoing war on Ukraine, the eastern city of Bakhmut is on the brink. Russian forces are closing in, with Ukrainian forces vulnerable to attacks from 3 sides. British intelligence reports Russians have entered the northern suburbs of the city, destroying 2 key bridges and putting Ukrainian supply lines in jeopardy. Bradley Bowman of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies told CBN's Faith Nation Russians are desperate for victory.
I think it's important because Russia's decided to make it important because, frankly, they need a symbolic victory. A top U.S. general testified before Congress about a week ago and described the fighting around Bakhmut as like World War I. They've been sending human wave after human wave, just sacrificing these poorly trained Russians on the altar, frankly, of Putin's ego.
Ukrainian forces in Bakhmut have withstood the Russian assault for 7 months. The White House is repeating its promise to work with Israel to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. It comes as the UN nuclear agency confirmed highly enriched uranium was discovered at an Iranian facility. As Israel celebrates the Purim holiday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu invoked the Bible to reiterate Israel's commitment to defending itself. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl reports.
The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, raised alarms in Israel during a visit to Iran over the weekend. At a joint press conference with Iran's Atomic Energy Organization director, Grossi said, "I think any attack, any military attack on a nuclear facility is outlawed, is out of the normative structures that we abide by." In response, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel has every right to defend itself against a nuclear Iran.
Rafael Grossi is a worthy gentleman who said something unworthy.
Grossi was in Tehran after it was revealed that particles of uranium enriched to near weapons grade were detected recently at an Iranian facility. The discovery raised concern that Iran could make a nuclear bomb very soon. Iran says it has no interest in nuclear weapons, but regularly threatens to wipe Israel off the map. Israel has always said that it will not allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon.
Against which law? Is Iran, which openly calls for our destruction, permitted to defend the destructive weapons that would slaughter us? Are we permitted to defend ourselves? It is clear that we are. and it is clear that we will do so. I say this because nothing will deter us from defending our country and preventing our enemies from eliminating the state of the Jews.
U.S. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley met with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant last week. Gallant said ongoing cooperation is required in order to prevent Iran from gaining a nuclear weapon. Netanyahu's comments came as Israelis and Jews around the world prepared to celebrate Purim.
We are on the eve of Purim. 2,500 years ago, an enemy arose in Persia who sought to destroy the Jews. They did not succeed then, neither will they succeed today.
Purim, described in the book of Esther, celebrates how God used Esther to prevent a plot against the Jewish people in Persia. Haman, a high-ranking Persian official, tricked the king into signing a death warrant for all the Jews, not knowing that Queen Esther was Jewish. Esther's favor and courage to approach the king saved the Jewish people, leading to Haman's condemnation and death. Israelis celebrate the holiday by retelling the biblical story, attending costume parties, and eating special pastries. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And again, America is pledging its support. Gordon?
And we're pledging our support. Israel has an absolute right to defend itself. The Jewish people have a right to self-determination. The modern state of Israel was recognized by the UN, and it was encouraged by the League of Nations. Many people don't go back that far, but the League of Nations said it was in the interest of all the world that Israel be allowed to exist, that the Jews be allowed to have a state in their homeland, in Palestine. And the UN followed that. So this has been part of international law for about 100 years. And when you understand that history, then when another state says we want to wipe Israel off the map and have done so repeatedly, this isn't something new. This is something they've done since the revolution back in the 70s. So they keep repeating that, and they keep developing enriched uranium, and they keep developing ballistic missiles. Well, they're not using this to celebrate the 4th of July. They want to come back in and say, well, we're going to honor what we've been saying for decades. We want to wipe Israel off the map, and if they get a nuclear weapon, I would expect that they would want to use it. So is Israel justified in preventing that? Absolutely. And it's part of their national defense. We wouldn't allow that here. The whole Cuban Missile Crisis was based on that. No, you don't get to park nuclear missiles on our doorstep. That's not allowed, and it shouldn't be allowed in Israel either.